Elon Musk enters Tesla dealership in disguise, stunned by the staff's reaction. The morning light slanted through half-drawn blinds, casting long fingers of gold across Elon Musk's desk. Outside his office window, the SpaceX and Tesla campuses hummed with the energy of innovation. Engineers bent over blueprints, test vehicles gliding silently across proving grounds, rockets being readied for their journey to the stars. Yet despite all he had built, a question gnawed at him, one that had kept him awake more nights than he cared to admit. "You've never actually experienced what it's like to be on the other side, have you?" Zach Kirkhorn, Tesla's CFO and one of Musk's closest confidants, leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. The question wasn't accusatory, merely observational, delivered with the quiet certainty of someone who had known Musk long enough to speak uncomfortable truths. Elon's fingers stopped their restless tapping on the glass desk surface. "What do you mean, exactly?" "I mean you've never walked into one of your own dealerships as just a regular person, someone with an average salary, average hopes, someone who's stretching their budget to afford the car they believe in." Zach stepped into the office, closing the door behind him. "You're always Elon Musk when you visit." The words landed with unexpected weight. Elon swiveled in his chair, gazing out at the California sunshine bathing his empire. Everything he built had been with a vision of transforming the world: sustainable energy, space exploration, neural interfaces. But had he lost touch with the very people his vision was meant to serve? "You think I'm out of touch," Elon said, not a question but a realization. "I think you believe in excellence," Zach replied diplomatically, "and I think you assume that's what's happening at every level of the company, but the reports I've been getting from customer experience." He let the sentence hang unfinished. Elon turned back, eyes narrowing. "How bad?" "Mixed. Some locations are stellar, others—" Zach hesitated. "Let's just say there's a disconnect between your vision and the reality on the ground." Something flashed across Elon's face, a brief flicker of anger, quickly replaced by determination. "Then I need to see for myself." "How exactly would you do that? You're possibly the most recognizable CEO on the planet." A slow smile spread across Elon's face, the kind that had preceded some of his most audacious ventures. "Then I guess I'll need to become someone else." 3 days later, Eddie Mercer shuffled nervously in the waiting area of Tesla's Fremont dealership. Where Elon Musk stood tall and confident, Eddie slouched slightly. Where Elon's sharp eyes missed nothing, Eddie's gaze wandered, distracted behind thick-framed glasses. Where Elon commanded attention in designer clothes, Eddie wore off-the-rack chinos and a wrinkled button-down with a coffee stain near the pocket. The transformation was more than physical. Elon had worked with a theater consultant on his mannerisms, his voice, his entire demeanor. Eddie Mercer was a high school science teacher from Oakland with a passion for sustainable energy and a modest savings account. He had a backstory, a driver's license courtesy of some discreet connections, and most importantly, a budget that would make purchasing a Tesla a significant financial stretch. What he didn't have, apparently, was the ability to get anyone's attention. 25 minutes Eddie had been waiting. He'd signed in at the touchscreen kiosk upon arrival, indicating his interest in the Model 3. The showroom wasn't even particularly busy. 3 salespeople chatted by the main desk, occasionally glancing his way but never approaching. 2 other customers had arrived after him, both dressed more expensively. Both had been greeted within minutes. Eddie checked his watch, feeling a very un-Elon-like anxiety bubbling up. Was this how regular people felt when they walked into a Tesla dealership? Invisible. Finally, a young salesman approached, his name tag reading Tyler. His smile was professional but didn't reach his eyes. "Sorry about the wait, how can I help you today?" Eddie straightened slightly. "I'm interested in learning more about the Model 3. I've been saving up for a while, and with the tax credits, I think I might finally be able to make the switch from my old Honda." Something subtle shifted in Tyler's expression, a barely perceptible cooling. Right, the Model 3 great entry-level option. He gestured vaguely toward the display model. Feel free to take a look. I can answer any questions you might have. No offer of a test drive. No questions about Eddie's needs or driving habits. Just a perfunctory invitation to look at the car he could already see. I'm a science teacher, Eddie volunteered, testing to see if this personal connection might change the dynamic. I've been teaching my students about climate change and renewable energy. Thought I should practice what I preach, you know. Tyler's smile thinned further. That's great, very admirable. He glanced over Eddie's shoulder at a couple who had just walked in sharply dressed, exuding the quiet confidence of wealth. Let me know if you have any specific questions. Our financing options start at around $900 a month, but there's quite a waiting list for the base model. Eddie frowned. That wasn't accurate. The base Model 3 started lower and there was currently no significant wait time. Before he could point this out, Tyler was already edging away. I'm actually thinking of the long-range version, Eddie said quickly. My sister lives in Lake Tahoe and I visit her regularly. That model starts closer to $1,200 a month, Tyler said, the dismissal in his tone unmistakable. Perhaps you'd like some brochures to take home and think about. The tax credit situation can be complicated for people with more modest incomes. Inside the unassuming exterior of Eddie Mercer, Elon Musk felt something between shock and fury rising. This wasn't just poor customer service. It was elitism of the worst kind, the very antithesis of what Tesla was supposed to represent. Actually, Eddie said quietly, I've been saving for this purchase for 3 years. I've done my research. I understand the economics perfectly well. Tyler nodded, clearly not listening. That's great. Like I said, brochures are by the door. If you decide you're ready to move forward, you can make an appointment online. With that, he turned and strode toward the wealthier-looking couple, his entire demeanor transforming as he approached them, back straightening, smile widening, energy renewed. Eddie Mercer stood alone beside the Model 3, invisible once more. The second dealership was in Palo Alto, smaller than the Fremont location but with stellar online reviews. Eddie Mercer arrived on a Tuesday afternoon, hopping for a different experience. The initial signs were promising. A cheerful associate named Jenna greeted him promptly, offered coffee, and asked thoughtful questions about his driving needs and environmental concerns. Eddie began to relax slightly. Perhaps Fremont had been an unfortunate outlier. Then came the tour of the showroom, where things began to unravel. Watch your step here, Eddie pointed out, noticing a charging cable stretched across the walkway, an obvious tripping hazard. Jenna laughed lightly. Oh, don't worry about that, it's just temporary. It seems dangerous, Eddie persisted. Someone could fall. A flash of annoyance crossed her face. We're all adults here, I'm sure people can manage to step over a cable. The dismissiveness was jarring. Behind his disguise, Elon made a mental note. This wasn't just about how staff treated customers, but about a fundamental safety culture that should permeate every aspect of the business. The conversation moved to financing, where Eddie was introduced to Raj, the finance manager. Raj's approach was different from Tyler's, but no less concerning. Rather than dismissing Eddie outright, he employed a subtle bait-and switch. The monthly payment I quoted includes some upgrades you'll definitely want, Raj explained smoothly. Premium connectivity, the full self-driving capability. But I didn't ask for those, Eddie interrupted. I'm interested in the standard package with basic autopilot. Raj's smile never faltered. Trust me, you'll regret not having them. Everyone does, and it's only an extra, let's see, $175 a month. That's over $10,000 over the life of the loan, Eddie pointed out. It's an investment, Raj countered, slightly condescending. Look, I'm just trying to save you from coming back later wanting to add these features when it'll cost you more. By the time Eddie left the Palo Alto dealership, he had a clearer picture of the problem. It wasn't universal rudeness or dismissal, it was subtler than that. A culture that prioritized upselling over education, that viewed customers with modest budgets as less worthy of respect and honesty, that cut corners on safety and transparency. Elon Musk might have built rockets and revolutionized the automotive industry, but Eddie Mercer couldn't get straight answers about a car he'd spent years saving to buy. The third dealership in San Jose was where things truly imploded. Eddie arrived with a specific question about a Model 3 on the showroom floor, one with a noticeable scratch on the rear quarter panel. He'd spotted it immediately upon walking in and was curious how the staff would handle the issue. His salesperson was Kevin, a former luxury car salesman with a practiced smile and firm handshake. Kevin spent the first 15 minutes extolling the virtues of Tesla ownership, how Eddie would be joining an elite club, how his neighbors would be envious, how women would find him more attractive. Not once did he mention environmental benefits or technological innovation, the very things Tesla had been built upon. Finally, Eddie steered the conversation to the specific car. "I noticed there's damage on this one," he said, pointing to the scratch. Kevin barely glanced at it. "Oh, that's nothing, probably just some dust, it'll buff right out." "It's clearly a scratch," Eddie insisted. "Metal is exposed." "Look, these cars are checked thoroughly before they hit the floor," Kevin said, his tone hardening. "If you're the type who's going to obsess over every little imperfection, maybe Tesla isn't for you. These are handcrafted vehicles, not mass-produced Japanese econoboxes." The condescension was startling. Handcrafted, they're built on an automated production line, and that's not an imperfection, it's damage that would need proper repair. Kevin's friendly facade crumbled entirely. "Are you an expert now? Did you come in here to lecture me about cars? Because I've been selling Teslas for 3 years and I think I know what I'm talking about." "I just want honest information," Eddie said quietly. "What you want is to waste my time," Kevin snapped. "I've got serious buyers waiting. Maybe you should come back when you're ready to have a real conversation instead of nitpicking." Eddie felt his control slipping, Elon threatening to emerge through Eddie's mild-mannered exterior. "I am a serious buyer. I've saved for years for this purchase, but I won't be spoken to this way." "Then there's the door," Kevin said coldly. "We pride ourselves on working with customers who appreciate what Tesla represents. You clearly don't get it." As Eddie Mercer walked out of the San Jose dealership, Elon Musk was already formulating a plan that would shake Tesla's retail operations to their core. The emergency executive meeting was called for 7 a.m. the following morning. Senior vice presidents and regional managers from across the country joined via video conference, baffled by the urgency and the terse message that had accompanied the summons. Customer experience overhaul, non-negotiable. Elon paced the conference room as they assembled virtually, an intensity radiating from him that his executives recognized from Tesla's most pivotal moments. "For 3 days," he began without preamble, "I've been visiting our dealerships as a potential customer. Not as Elon Musk, as Eddie Mercer, a schoolteacher with a passion for sustainability and a modest budget." He paused, letting the implications sink in. "What I experienced was nothing short of disgraceful." The stunned silence was broken only by a few nervous coughs. "We're building cars meant to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy," Elon continued, his voice controlled but vibrating with emotion. Not exclusive toys for the wealthy, not status symbols, vehicles that make a difference. Yet our own sales teams are treating average consumers like they're unworthy of our products. He detailed each experience, the long wait at Fremont, the misleading financing information in Palo Alto, the outright hostility in San Jose. "This ends today," he declared. "We're instituting a complete overhaul of our sales approach, effective immediately." What followed was a comprehensive restructuring plan. Commission structures would no longer incentivize upselling unnecessary features, but would reward customer satisfaction scores. Mystery shoppers would regularly evaluate dealership experiences. Safety protocols would be enforced with zero tolerance for violations. Most importantly, every customer, regardless of appearance, occupation, or budget, would receive the same respectful treatment and transparent information. But there was one bright spot, Elon added as the meeting drew to a close. One dealership in Mountain View where the experience was everything it should have been. Marcus Williams had worked at Tesla's Mountain View location for just under a year. A former environmental science major who'd found his calling in connecting people with sustainable technology, he approached each customer with genuine enthusiasm for their potential environmental impact rather than their potential commission. When Eddie Mercer had walked in the previous afternoon, the final stop on Elon's undercover journey, Marcus had greeted him warmly, listened attentively to his needs, and presented honest information about which features would actually benefit a teacher who made regular trips to Lake Tahoe. He'd explained financing options clearly, pointing out where Eddie could save money. He'd advised against certain add-ons that, while profitable for the dealership, wouldn't serve Eddie's specific situation. And when Eddie had asked complicated questions about battery degradation and charging networks, Marcus had admitted when he didn't know the answer rather than bluffing. The difference, Elon told his executives, was that Marcus treated Eddie Mercer like a partner in the mission, not just a wallet to be emptied. That's what every Tesla customer deserves. 2 weeks later, Eddie Mercer returned to the Fremont dealership. Tyler wasn't there. He'd been transferred to a training position after the overhaul, but the general manager, Vincent, and finance manager, Raj, were both working. Eddie was greeted promptly this time by a new associate who listened carefully to his requirements and walked him through the features of the Model 3 without pushing unnecessary upgrades. When it came time to discuss financing, Raj appeared, not recognizing Eddie from their previous encounter at the Palo Alto location. "I understand you're a teacher," Raj said, his manner considerably more respectful than before. "Let me show you the incentives you qualify for, and we can work out a payment plan that fits your budget without compromising on the features you actually need." Eddie nodded thoughtfully. "That's a refreshing approach. Last time I visited a Tesla dealership, I was made to feel like I didn't belong because I couldn't afford every bell and whistle." "Really?" Raj looked genuinely concerned. "That's not how we operate. Every customer deserves transparent information and respect regardless of their budget." "Is that a recent policy change?" Eddie asked innocently. "No, it's always been our philosophy," Raj assured him. "Whoever treated you that way wasn't representing Tesla's values." Eddie smiled slightly. "That's interesting to hear, especially from you, Raj." Confusion flickered across the finance manager's face. "Have we met before?" 2 weeks ago, in Palo Alto, you tried to add over $10,000 in options I specifically said I didn't want." The color drained from Raj's face. I don't recall that interaction. Perhaps there was a misunderstanding." "There's no misunderstanding now, is there?" Eddie reached up and removed his glasses, straightened his posture, and in that moment the transformation was subtle but unmistakable. Raj's eyes widened in shock as recognition dawned. "Mr. Musk," he stammered, we weren't." "Get Vincent," Elon said quietly. "We're going to have a conversation about the text messages I found between you two, discussing how to filter out the time wasters and focus on the whales. About the internal competition you created for who could sell the most expensive package to people who didn't need it. About the bonuses you took while violating everything this company stands for." The showroom had gone utterly silent, other staff and customers alike sensing the seismic shift occurring in their midst. "Tesla was founded to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy," Elon continued, his voice carrying across the suddenly silent showroom. "Not to create another exclusive club that keeps regular people out. Every person who walks through these doors is someone who believes in that mission, someone willing to stretch their budget to take a chance on the future we're building. They deserve better than what I experienced." In the weeks that followed, the transformation across Tesla's retail operations was comprehensive. The entire sales staff underwent retraining. Mystery shoppers, real people from diverse backgrounds and income levels, regularly evaluated the customer experience. And occasionally, without warning, a rumpled science teacher named Eddie Mercer would appear, asking questions about Model 3s and watching carefully to ensure that Tesla's mission remained intact at every level. As for Marcus from Mountain View, he found himself with a new title, Director of Customer Experience, reporting directly to Elon himself. His first project was developing training materials called the Eddie Mercer Experience, ensuring that every potential Tesla owner, regardless of their background or budget, was treated as an essential partner in the journey towards sustainable transportation. In boardrooms and executive offices, the story became legendary. How the billionaire founder had gone undercover to experience his own company through new eyes, and how what he discovered had led to a renewal of Tesla's founding mission. But in dealerships across the country, salespeople simply knew that any customer, from school teachers to software engineers, from modest budgets to unlimited ones, might be the one whose experience would define the future of their careers. And that was exactly as it should be. 6 months later, on a crisp autumn evening, Elon sat alone in his office, watching the sun sink behind the hills of Fremont. The past half-year had brought remarkable changes to Tesla's culture. Customer satisfaction scores had risen dramatically. Sales to middle-income households had increased by 23%. Most importantly, the company had rediscovered its soul. A soft knock interrupted his thoughts. Zach stood in the doorway holding a manila folder. "The latest numbers from the customer experience overhaul," he said, placing the folder on Elon's desk. "And something else I thought you'd want to see." Beneath the statistics was a handwritten letter. Elon raised an eyebrow as he picked it up. "James Whittaker," Zach explained, "high school physics teacher from Sacramento, bought a Model 3 last month." Elon unfolded the letter, his eyes moving across the carefully penned words. "Mr. Musk, I've taught physics for 27 years. Every day I try to ignite a spark in young minds, to help them see that science isn't just equations on a chalkboard but the very language of possibility. For years, I've used Tesla as an example of how scientific principles can change the world when placed in service of our planet's future. Last month, I finally saved enough to buy my own Model 3. I expected to feel pride in the purchase. What I didn't expect was to be treated with such dignity throughout the process. Your sales associate, Amelia, spent 3 hours with me, never rushing, never pushing features I couldn't afford. When I mentioned that I planned to take my advanced placement students on a field trip to see sustainable technology in action, she arranged for a special tour of the showroom after hours. Mr. Musk, I don't know what changed at Tesla, but whatever it has made this teacher feel like his modest contribution to your mission actually matters. My students now crowd around my car each morning, asking questions, imagining possibilities. One girl, who has never shown interest in science before, asked me yesterday how batteries work. That spark of curiosity is how the future begins. With deepest gratitude, James Whittaker. Elon set the letter down, a tightness in his throat that he hadn't expected. Outside, the last rays of sunlight painted the Tesla factory in gold, the same factory where workers built not just cars but vessels for a different kind of future. You know, Zach said quietly, for all the metrics and data points we track, it's letters like this that tell the real story. Elon nodded, unable to find words for a moment. Eddie Mercer would be proud, Zach added with a small smile. Eddie served his purpose, Elon replied, finally finding his voice. But I think I prefer being the person who gets to read letters like this one. He placed the letter carefully back in the folder, a reminder of why the mission had always mattered, not for the wealthy few, but for the teachers and dreamers who wanted to be part of something larger than themselves. People whose contributions might seem small individually but collectively could transform the world. Just as Tesla had always intended.